Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm also very excited, like Amanda, because Barcelona is home to a fast-growing amount of impact entrepreneurs that are building products that are useful, impactful, scalable, and tech-enabled, like the two that we have here today. So I'm very honored to be on stage today with Oriol Fuertes, the co-founder and CEO of QIDA. We'll present them a bit more in detail in a bit. And Rob Cassedy, he's the CEO of Wallpop. What are we going to discuss today? We're going to be talking a bit about their paths of growth. We're going to be discussing the challenges that they've been facing of scaling impact companies, and a bit about their funding journey, which has been different in both cases, and I think it would be interesting to hear a bit about that. If we have time, we might take one or two questions from the public. And then, if you're interested in continuing the conversation, we're going to invite everyone who wants to join us upstairs in Speakeasy for a more informal Q&A. Okay, so let's start. I have to say I'm not impartial to any of these founders and companies. Starting with Rob, we were telling us earlier that Wallpop started in 2013, and actually this morning I checked since when I've been a Wallpop user, and it's from 2014. So I've been using it for the past 10 years. And he'll introduce it a bit better, but it's a marketplace where you can buy absolutely anything, secondhand, from a hammer to fine art, to cars, really everything. And what they do is that they enable that the things that are already in use and have already been produced, they found homes over and over again, so that we don't need to unnecessarily produce new things. And yeah, I have to say that looking at my home, probably I can confidently say that about 50% of my furniture comes from Wallpop, so I'm a heavy user. Welcome to be here. And if you can introduce in a few minutes, like what's your value proposition, your growth path until now, and where you are today.
Of course, and thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I feel a bit like a DJ at a silent disco. To see all the headphones. Anyways, so it's funny that you mentioned that 50% of the things in your home maybe came from Wallpop, because I'm going to start with a stat. So each year, or every couple of years, we run a big study to understand how our customers, or actually all of Spaniards' attitudes changing towards consumption of used goods. And it's been amazing to see how those numbers have changed. And in fact, recently, in our most recent one, we saw that 60% of people in Spain actually want to buy 50% of their things used within the next 3 years. So just like your house, 50% of things used. And this implies like this incredible transformation of commerce. And that's why Wallpop exists, to facilitate that transformation. And make it easier for people to go from where it is today, and we think the circular economy is somewhere between 5 and 10%, and grow that share of wallet to 50%. And we're doing that by making it available to everyone. So about half of Spain comes to Wallpop every month, and you can buy and sell almost everything from, like you mentioned, cars to, personally use Wallpop all the time to buy and sell records. Big vinyl collector. So pretty much anything you want to buy or sell, you can find on Wallpop. You can do it in the way that's most convenient for you. Obviously, we started very much as a peer-to-peer local trading site where you traded in person in your neighborhood. But seeing that there was a big opportunity to connect people from across Spain and now into Italy and Portugal, we enabled payments and shipping. So now you can trade using e-commerce if you want as well. And that's ultimately really opened the door towards more and more secondhand trading and kind of making that conscious commerce revolution happen.
Nice. Thank you so much, Rob. We'll be digging a bit about what have his challenges been in scaling Wallpop until what it is today. Now, Oriol, I'm also not impartial to you.
Thank you.
Oriol is the co-founder and CEO of QIDA, and QIDA is, correct me if I'm wrong, but they provide healthcare assistance at home to ensure that people can live longer lives and healthier lives at home for the most time possible. And when I found out what QIDA was doing already a few years ago, I thought it was like pretty cool.
Thank you.
But this year, my father-in-law, who has like Parkinson's, like pretty advanced, had an accident, and suddenly we were like, okay, we need someone at home to help us take care of him. And he lives in Belgium, and it was a nightmare to find it, and still is, because we're changing. And I was like, where is QIDA? Because I know in Spain this would be easier. So tell us a little bit about your journey and what you're building.
Well, thank you so much. Really privileged to be here, and also privileged to be next to Wallpop, sharing the stage. So really, QIDA is a social impact scale-up. We have a very clear mission. It's what we call triple M. More people live more time with more quality of life at home. So we are not in the business of finding caregivers. We are in the business of keeping the elderly at home. That's what we do. And we are operating in Spain. It's a 5 billion euro market, growing 10% as itself, extremely fragmented. We do so, this mission, through three main verticals. The first one is private home care. The second one is public home care. The third one is prevention. On the private one, we work with families on a B2C model whereby we identify the needs of their family, typically, and we provide care and technology so they can live longer at home. Anywhere from 1 hour, 1 day a week, to 24 hours a day, anywhere from no sensors to 10 sensors at home, is about how do you provide that care, that package around the person on an out-of-pocket basis. That's business one, or unit one. Unit two is we do the same, but working with the public administration. So half of the market is public, half of the market is out of pocket. On the public side, we are operating in 100 different municipalities across Spain, providing care and technology to really transform this. So typically this sector has been who offers the care at the cheapest price, and then that wins the bid. We need to transform that. What we're doing is we offer technology to connect the house with the hospital, with the primary care, with the caregiver. The key question that we have is whenever health systems keep saying we need to be proactive, right? We need to make sure we take care of patients before they get ill. Great, but how are you going to do that if you don't have data? We keep repeating that, and I've been 10 years in consulting just writing these papers that say proactive care. Bullshit. Nothing is proactive unless you have data to act. So that's the reality that we're doing. We don't only provide care, but we also provide data so that health systems can act proactively. And the third one is prevention. We not only want to care for people, we only want for them to not get ill or get ill the latest possible. And here we've partnered with the largest life insurer and bank in Spain to launch the first Alzheimer, Parkinson, and multiple sclerosis insurance product. So we provide technology and the platform so that people take care of their cognitive deterioration or avoid it, and then when they have it, we take care of them. A team of 200 people and 5,000 caregivers that every day are working, and that's a bit about us so far.
Thank you both. So now that we see that you've come a long way already, no, in your journeys, I was curious to try to understand a bit better what have been the challenges that you've faced to balance growth and impact, and have you faced a lot of dichotomies and choices that you've had to make to balance these two? If you can provide examples, that's great, because it always strikes the chord more with the audience. You want to start?
Yeah, I can go.
Oriol?
So maybe a step back and then a step forward. To me, an impact startup, it's, imagine a road, okay? You have a road, and you have orange trees next to the road. If you are a social impact company, the same time that you are walking through this road, you catch the orange. The orange is the impact that you're having. If you're not a social impact company, it means you need to get out of your way to go and catch the orange. So when I was preparing for this question, I said, well, there's no dichotomy. The more I grow, the more impact I have. The more impact I have, the more I grow. So let's put that in. So I'm catching oranges all the way, right? So in every 22 minutes, we are creating one job. That means we grow faster, but we also have impact. Right? Every 22 minutes, we are creating a job that is going to get paid more than the sector, and is going to have an average of at least 30 hours per week of work. So that means I will have more revenue because I will be selling more hours, but at the same time, the caregiver will have more stability. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think the dichotomy is how do you achieve more impact or how do you achieve more growth? Those are the challenges, right? So that's the step forward. So to answer to that question, I think that the two main challenges that we have is one, accessing the supply. So this is a supply constrained market, not a demand constrained market. So how do you ensure you attract, but most importantly, retain the supply, because supply is really local, right? So caregivers don't travel more than 5-7 kilometers. So how do you crack that? That is a big challenge. And the second big challenge for us is, how do you do 3 businesses in one that have way more value combined? Because private and public, you can cross-sell, you do prevention, you get customers early, blah, blah, but how do you build 3 things at the same time that you scale? Those are the 2 main challenges that we've had to face.
Mm-hmm. And small follow-up to that. So how do you envision like growing aging population with keeping the high-level quality care that you want to provide?
Yes. So this one is the easy bit. You can be as big as you want, as long as there is a person in the company that takes care of that patient and that caregiver, right? So we have the care coordinator. The care coordinator currently is managing between 100 and 140 cases. I can have a bazillion care coordinators, but those care coordinators need to really that. And then it's the systems that you put in place and the processes. And here boils down to really the culture that we have set up, right? Like, it's a culture of quality first. We can have no mistakes. And if we have a mistake, we really need to be very, very quick at fixing it, right? So how do you create a process and a system, and then the technology that really helps you to standardize the care? But then, yes, there is a human touch, which creates a challenge in terms of VC funding and so on that we can discuss.
Okay, technology, processes, and culture.
Yes.
Nice. Rob, what about you? Any dichotomies you've had to face between growth and impact that you would like to share?
So I love the story about the orange trees, and I guess, so we're also in the orange business at Wallpop, because we have it very similar in terms of we see our impact and our growth very much aligned. So we defined our impact model is based on 3 pillars. So creating economic opportunity, so turning things you don't need into money, or getting better deals on things you do need. Sustainability, obviously extending the life of products, reducing the need for new products, and then accessibility, so being a platform for everyone. So that, as I mentioned, so for all Spaniards and all Portuguese and all Italians. And the great part is when anyone uses Wallpop, you don't have a choice but to impact one of those pillars. Whether you like it or not, and no matter why you're coming to the platform, you are making a difference from helping someone else earn more money, helping which people end up using for lots and lots of different things, helping keep more new products from being made, or engaging with your community in commerce. So it's very similar in terms of impact and growth are one and the same. And so also for us, it's about how do we drive that growth, and it's around thinking about, for many people in this room, I'm sure you've used Wallpop every now and then. And so how do we go from that less than 10% today to 50% down the road? And it's around creating inspiration. So how do we make sure all of us remember, hey, I have stuff that I don't need that I can be selling? Or think about secondhand every time I'm thinking about an item. So creating engaging products, creating engaging marketing. Second is about reducing barriers from simplicity or convenience. So that's why I was mentioning each time continuing to intermediate more of the experience. So starting with shipping, with payments, and using those things as well to bring trust. Because these are the key barriers for people with secondhand. They know they can find great deals, but we need to make it easier and continue to remove those barriers, and we need to make it more trusted. So no matter whether you're trading with your neighbor or someone you've never met before, you feel like, hey, this is a safe thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's very interesting that you mentioned that all the 3 pillars, that no matter why you come from, you're getting one of these things out of Wallpop, whether you want it or not. But in this sense, I've been a user since the beginning. I remember that at the beginning, the communication was more geared towards the convenience of buying directly from your neighbor. No, sometimes it's cheaper also. But lately, I feel like the communication has been focusing more on the environmental benefits and that aspect. What has been, or why this shift, and what has been the transformation in the communication and positioning of Wallpop?
Yeah, and for us, we've always messaged around this double positive. And at the beginning, like you mentioned, at the beginning we were very focused on value, because that's the core. When you look at when you ask people why they come to Wallpop, at the end of the day, getting value, getting great deals, or turning things I don't need into money is the #1 reason. And so we've always communicated that from the very, very beginning. And I think over time, as we've become, and that's our core, that is the base of the pyramid. Over time, as we've brought more and more people into the ecosystem, they've seen that value, and then as attitudes have changed, now we see sustainability, which has again always been part of our purpose from day one. It's becoming much more of a driver in purchase behavior. So now we see 80% of people, no, actually 90%, sorry, I got it wrong. 90% of people actually consider sustainability in every single purchase. And that's a huge change from where it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, where before it was, I want to get great deals. Now it's actually, I want to get great deals that I can feel great about. And so that's where we have this dual positive message, and we've adjusted over time. Again, with the idea of bringing more people into the ecosystem is going to have that impact no matter why they come.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And I love that. I feel like sometimes in the space of impact, particularly in products that are environmental, a lot of people have the perception that if you're taking the impact choice, it's always going to be more expensive, or there's a downfall on other side. And in both your cases, you're proving that you can have impact and high quality, or impact and environmental, and then price benefits, no? So that it's also compatible. But it's great to see the evolution in the messaging as well, too. Help people buy for what they want to buy, and then you know the impact that you're having on the back end. Great. Now I'd like to explore a bit more about the funding journeys, because to get to where you are, you've also had the help of VCs along the way, and you've started the journey in different, from different perspectives. So, Rob, you started with more traditional VCs on your board, and you started with more impact VCs to then also get funding from more traditional VCs, or not necessarily impact-focused VCs. I wanted to know if these choices have been intentional at the beginning, and how this has impacted your decision-making. Maybe let's start by you, Oriol, because you can talk about the transformation of your cap table.
Yeah, absolutely. So for context, we've raised roughly 25 million in equity plus debt in 3 different funding rounds. And we've got right now in the cap table the 3 largest social impact funds in Spain for Series C and A, and then QIDA Ventures, which is a traditional Southern Europe leading VC. Right, so we moved from not having QIDA to actually having QIDA. To me, the key thing is, it's very easy to explain the decisions you took once you've taken them and looking backwards, right? So for me, what I take is, number one, there's no choice. Like, I want to be for profit and for impact. So the company needs to be important, relevant, good for both the VC, and there is impact and not impact. It needs to be equally good, right? I don't want to be the cherry on the cake of a VC because we are doing social impact. I don't want to be that guy, and I don't want to be the nice social company that doesn't gonna give a return. I want to be a very good economic business and a very good social impact business. And so actually having both gives you the proof of that, right? So now it's very easy, but back then it was not so much, right? So that's the main idea. For profit, for impact, equally important. And then as we move forward, it's really important that now we are facing Series B. And it's hard to find social impact growth VC in Spain. Well, you might as well look very well because there's none. There's a gap, right? So how do we fill that gap? Well, you need traditional VCs, that QIDA, that help you jump, where you can get 30, 40, 50 million from impact is really hard. So the next round will have to be a combination. Mm-hmm. And so for me, just having social impact VCs all the way was not a choice, because then I knew that I would face a problem in Series B that is changing, is evolving, but there's no much social impact capital in Series B right now in Europe, and specifically in Spain.
But at the beginning, was it easier to pitch your project to impact VCs, or it was just happened naturally that?
No, I think it happened. You basically have a wider spectrum, right? Like the social impact VCs are only interested in social impact stuff, and then the other ones, if you have a good impact, they are interested. So yeah.
Okay, nice. What about you, Rob? Because you've mostly, or if only, more impact agnostic VCs on your cap table, right?
Yeah, and I would say this is maybe partly because of timing. I mean, at the end of the day, we were founded in 2013, so I'm not sure there were a lot of impact VCs then. And mostly based on, so for us, it's been largely based on kind of where are we in the evolution of the company and what are we trying to do. That's how we've chosen our partners throughout the journey. So at the beginning, it was very early stage VCs, both some more local, but a lot of global ones. Then as we were looking at international expansion, and we had a couple rounds of this, it was more global, starting to go from VC almost into the growth side. And then most recently, it's been as we start to scale our technology across these different countries, we've partnered with Naver, who is a Korean technology firm, to really help us beef up that technology side. So it's, for us, our choice of partners is again, maybe it wasn't, we didn't have at that time, there wasn't the choice of a lot of impact VCs. It's been more based on kind of where we are, what's most important for us as a company now. Is it kind of knowledge around international expansion? Is it help in technology? Or is it kind of just the advice for startups and entrepreneurs?
Mm-hmm. Okay, and when you present and you report to your board, for example, do you present impact KPIs, or is it seen as a distraction, like from their perspective, from a fun perspective for the entrepreneurs in the room? How do you strike that balance?
So great question, because I would say up until a couple years ago, we knew we were having this impact, but it was more of a, not a hunch, but it was kind of an unknown. And we actually spent a lot of time building a fairly complicated model to estimate that impact we're having across those three vectors, or across those pillars. And I would say by doing this helped kind of bring together, not just connect us with our VCs or our investors, but also with the team. And it kind of connected everything around this is the impact we're having. And I would say quantifying it was a key step. So bringing our customers, so we're actually now showing the impact. So when you open the Wallpop app, you can see, hey, by making this trade, you'll save X amount of carbon or X amount of cost savings, or thinking about the different drivers of impact. And then with the team, we talk a lot about, hey, last year in 2023, we saved 2.5 billion in economic savings for our users. We, from a carbon perspective, 500,000 tons of carbon dioxide, which is actually the equivalent of no one driving cars in Spain, or not in Spain, sorry, in Barcelona for 200 days. So a massive impact when we started to quantify these things. And I think it made it more real for investors of saying, hey, this is now I have something which we used very scientific ways to calculate to bring to because for them it's becoming more important as well, as they're showing their LPs, hey, these are the types of companies we're investing in, and giving them this documentation and the actual astronomical figures that we're the impact that we're having helps them. Again, it helps tie us with our employees. And it actually, starting to make, like I mentioned, more and more of a difference with customers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they understand that you're in the orange picking business as well, and that one is not against the other. Good. And in your case, particularly in the beginning, with impact VCs, I'm curious about kind of the opposite. Is it because they have their own agenda on the impact they want to have that they kind of draw you in and they expect you to report in a certain way, or they have helped you out? Like, what's been like for you?
A couple of ideas. The first one is that sometimes we see social impact VCs like they are focused mostly on social impact, but the reality is that they want it all. Like they want a great economic business and great impact, right? So it's like two things, right? And you need to do both at the best level, right? So it's not good enough to only grow and have good economics. It's not only good enough to have social impact, right? So that's the first thing, because many times when we think about impact, it's like, oh, if you're having great impact, but you're losing money. No, we want it all. So that's the first thing. The second thing is they really help in the methodology of how to measure impact. Like sometimes you have an intuition of the impact that you have. The buckets where you're having, you have your own indicators to measure that, but you cannot compare, right? So they help you compare, they help you with frameworks, they put you something that they really help, they they put you like at the forefront. And when you're using QIDA or someone else's example, you really need to prepare, like for example in Spain App or other organizations. So that really helps to put a methodology in place. And then the third thing that for me was really helpful was to go through the B Corp process and implement the right processes in its place, because it's a way to formalize things that you are doing in a more informal way or intuition-based way. Just a clarification on before, when I said there are not, no one told me, but when I said there are no VC funds doing growth in impact, I would just maybe clarify that it's risky because there are not so many of them, right? So if you put all your eggs in, I'm going to fund myself all the way with social impact VCs in Europe, I would say good luck, because maybe there are 4, 5, 6 that can put 20 million as a Series B, and it's not a great way to really go and fundraise. So just to clarify that, versus if you position yourself as impact and economic, then all of a sudden you have like 70, 80, 90, 100 funds in Europe that you can talk to, and then you find the one that you match and that really values what you're doing, and vice versa.
And that it's right for you.
Yeah.
As there.
It's both ways.
Okay, thank you so much. We have 4 minutes left. So I'm going to ask a last question that maybe we can reply fast, and this way we can fit in one question from the public. The last thing is, we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are building what they hope will be impact unicorns in Spain in the audience, and we also have a lot of investors in the audience. So I'd like to get a final key takeaway from you on something that you would say to the entrepreneurs in the room of how to build impact unicorns in Spain, and something that you would say to investors on how to best accompany impact companies in Spain.
Okay. Rob?
Go ahead, Rob.
Sure.
Good.
For me, on the founder side, I would say take some risks and be exciting with mission or with kind of what you're trying to do. Be really boring on monetization. At least this is what I've seen from investors. They love to talk about TAM, so talk about, this is where saying, hey, revitalizing or refiguring commerce is actually really exciting for them. But they don't want to hear a lot about innovation on monetization. If you can frame this in a very simple way that they understand, then they're like, okay, big TAM, good unit economics. So for me, I would be simple on that, expansive on mission.
Good. So for me, towards building the company and the employees, if there is a word, to me is culture and consistency, because to me culture equals consistency, if there is a word. And so consistency between how your board thinks, how the CEO thinks, how the management team thinks, how the whole organization thinks about what you're trying to achieve and how you do it. Write it down and make sure everyone follows that manifesto, and be ruthless if someone gets out of your manifesto, because that's the consistency that really can make a company scalable. That would be on the employee side or founding side. On the investor and how to approach that, to me, is to be conscious that social impact funds want it all. And it's good that they want it all, because this way they will raise more money, and if they raise more money, we will do more things, right? So it's not bad that they want it all, it's great that they want it all. And so when you portray and you pitch, you cannot position yourself as the nice startup that's doing great things in the community, because all of a sudden you go into a nice guy bucket, which is not where you want to be. You want to be in the bucket of this guy is doing something big, great, amazing, and good for the world. And by the way, I'm going to invest and invest and invest and maximize the impact that they have. So yeah, I think there is a mindset shift when I started to say, oh, this impact fund really pushes. And it's like, then I thought, well, it's great for us as an ecosystem that they push, because that way we're going to collectively raise more money from LPs and achieve more things together.
Thank you. A last one for investors, Rob.
So I think for me, the biggest help we got from investors, and what I would suggest for them, is to continue to push for the metrics, actually quantifying the impact. I think it changed a lot of our relationship between us and our investors when we became much more quantified and we were able to show how that impact was actually driving the business. So this is where my advice for them would be to push the quantification of impact earlier in the journey.